G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Dill and that's Stu and we are the Fantasy Bros. We are absolutely pumped to announce that we've partnered with GameDay Squad this NRL season to bring you all you need to know about GDS Rugby League in 2025. Stu, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. Teamless Tuesday has dropped and we are days away from the start of the 2025 season.
Yeah, that's right. G'day, Dill. G'day, viewers and listeners. Thanks for joining in. Make sure you're getting some comments into that chat. We'll get to them as soon as we can. PPS knows what's up. He's already in here commenting nice and early, saying he's watching us while he's having a shower. A bit interesting, but that certainly is what you would call commitment. That's right, Dill, mate. We smashed through the pre-season episodes. We looked at our top 10 forwards, our top 10 halves, and our top 10 backs. Now it's full steam ahead to round one in Las Vegas. Everyone will be coming live to you every Thursday night. So make sure you subscribe to us on the Fantasy Bros YouTube channel so you don't miss a thing. We're going to discuss mostly all of the important start and sits for the week. And we're also going to reveal who we are going to play in our champion squads. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and connect with us on all of our socials as well. We're on YouTube here, and we'll be posting a lot more on TikTok as well as Instagram throughout the season. So go follow us. That's at FantasyBros AU. We'll have plenty of content on there as well as a heap of pack and card giveaways throughout the season.
That's right, mate. And obviously, we've got a massive pack giveaway a little bit later on in tonight's episode as well. You do not want to miss that. So make sure you stay tuned. Obviously, it's definitely not too late to get started with GameDay Squad either. You simply need to go and download the app or visit the GameDay Squad website, create your account and use the promo code FBRL25 and you'll be rewarded with 3 9-player common packs just for doing so. Plus, you can enter either of our referral codes to get even more packs. They've got a massive pack giveaway there with referral codes at the moment. So make sure you check out the GameDay Squad Discord as well to get all of the information there. Not only that, they've just recently dropped their bronze starter pack. So that is 30 players to get your team rock and rolling for the start of the season. Our promo code, our referral codes, is 31Z92QY4 and 5N005JTO. So make sure you pump those in. So why wait? There's plenty of cash and pack prizes to be won each and every round in this rugby league season. Sign up now. Plenty of fun and go head to head against Stu and I, as well as a heap of other coaches. Stu, do you want to let everyone know a little bit about today's show? It's a little bit different than some of our other live preview shows.
Yeah, it will be. And just before I mention that, make sure you get your friends involved in GameDay Squad as well. It's a fantastic community, particularly on the Discord. A lot of fun in there, but also a lot of help and definitely a lot of good giveaways and good fun in there as well. So get your friends involved in GameDay Squad as well, and you'll even be rewarded with a few packs just for getting them on board as well. Yeah, look, tonight's show is going to be a little bit different. We've only got the 2 games this weekend in Vegas, obviously, and then we've got the rest of the round over next weekend. So we're going to focus on these 2 games in a little bit more detail. Now, generally, we'll probably avoid going into depth in all of the previews because we'll probably be up until midnight and no one wants to sit around listening to us for that long. What we'll do on the normal Wednesday show is go through the 3 main positions, being the forwards, the halves, and the backs. And we'll talk about the players that we're starting in our champion sides and try to answer some of the most important start and sit questions throughout the week and also in the chat. So tonight, we'll go through the 2 Vegas games. We'll talk about the main players that we're considering, and we'll still talk about those 3 big positions, and we'll reveal who we're going to play in our champion squads. We've also got a really exciting pack giveaway, so make sure you're staying here with us until the very end. And yeah, see if you're one of those lucky winners from commenting on our preseason videos. Dill, just before we get into the preview of those 2 games on Sunday, should coaches be implementing any strategy with the rolling lockout? Obviously, we've got 2 games Sunday, and then we've got to wait a few days for team lists, and then the next 6 games kick off on the following week.
Yeah, I guess that's important for new coaches is that there is a rolling lockout. So That first game there on Sunday is the Warriors up against the Raiders. And once that game kicks off, those players from those two teams will be locked. Every other player can still be interchanged. So I definitely think there's a few different ways for coaches to go about it. One thing I don't want to get sucked into is the hype and the excitement of the start of the season and play too many players from the first two Vegas games. I want to have a look at what some of those other teams are made up of when we get some team lists next Tuesday. So that's the first one for me, is I don't want to get sucked into too many players. I'm keen on a few, but just because they've got those two games, just because we're in Vegas and it's the start of the season, I don't want to go in too strong too early. But the other big thing for me is ensuring I have some flexibility in my squad. As you say, we don't have team lists yet for the rest of round one. We've only got the first couple of games, and there's still another 6 games after that contributes to your game day squad score. So I want to keep some flexibility in my squad to make sure I'm prepared for any sort of curveballs that might come this way. So what it means is the players that I'm going to have in my squad from the Vegas games, they're going to be placed on my field. They're not going to be on the bench. This allows me to then make changes to my bench players if any of those curveballs happen. So an example might be, I might be playing Adam Fanua-Blake and Barnett. If they were on the bench, then the 3 players that I was planning to play in the middle, they might get ruled out. They might have an injury coming into that first week. They might not get named. And then that limits my ability to make some changes there. Whereas if I play them on the field, if I play Adam Fanua-Blake and Barnett on the field and players are ruled out, I can replace them with any of the bench spots, which is hookers, middles, or edges. So I've got that flexibility to be able to pivot to another player in another position that I might like. So that's probably the big thing for me is being prepared for that pivot. We've already seen a couple of crazy calls in the first couple of Teamless Tuesdays that were announced yesterday that we'll talk about as well. So it's probably important to be prepared for those.
Yeah, good. So what I'm hearing is not to force someone into your starting lineup just because they're playing in Vegas. Yes, it will be exciting, obviously, to watch some of your players run out on the weekend, but we still need to be patient. There's a lot of teams still to be named next Tuesday and still plenty of games the following week. But look, it's going to be fun. The footy's finally back. So if you can get a couple of boys on the park this weekend, it makes the footy even more exciting. Looks like we got Skip here on stream. G'day, Skip. Thanks for tuning in, mate. And Cal reckons he could listen to us until midnight. Cal, feelings mutual. Same for me, buddy. All right, Dill. Enough chit-chat, mate. You want to get cracking on the Game 1 preview?
Yeah, definitely. And this is a big one, obviously, for us. As viewers can see, it's a bit of a FantasyBros rivalry in the first game of the season. So it's unreal way to start. We do have the Warriors up against the Raiders, and this should be an absolute cracker of a game. Look, a couple of key matchup stats from last season. The Raiders allowed an average of 48 GDS points to opposition halves in 2024, was actually the most in the competition. So there's a potential opportunity there to maybe target some Warriors halves. The Raiders also allowed 48 GDS points to hookers, which was also the most in the comp. So another opportunity there maybe. In terms of the Warriors, they allowed 53 or an average of 53 GDS points to fullbacks in 2024, which was actually the 3rd most in the competition. And then the Warriors actually allowed more points to oppositions lining up on the right side versus the left. So again, some opportunity there to maybe exploit some players in those key positions up against both the Raiders and the Warriors.
Have we got any stats? Awesome. Sorry, mate. Have we got any stats on players playing in the US or on fields that are 5 or 10 meters narrower? Because I think that might have a pretty big bearing on this weekend's games. Hey.
Yeah, potentially. And the good thing about it is tomorrow night we might be able to ask the man himself, James Tedesco, how he felt he performed on those different fields and how maybe that might have impacted his potential scoring opportunity as well. So that's something to keep an eye on too.
Absolutely. Footy season launch, bit more info coming about regarding that a little bit later on during tonight's show.
Alrighty, so in terms of some of the GDS players that we think are pretty relevant here, look, we've got the likes of Barnett, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Fogarty, Tarpanay, and then potentially the Hosking call as well, and Young. I think I like some of those plays. For me, I'm actually not playing anyone from this first game. I don't have anyone in my champion side from this first game. I have Fogarty and Barnett and a sprinkling of RTS and a couple of other of my squads. But in terms of my champion squad, I'm not playing anyone here. I think there's a couple of reasons. And the first one is I really like Fogarty's matchup against the Warriors. They gave up an average of 53 GDS points to right side halves last year, which was almost 20 points more than what they allowed to the left side. So I think if coaches are keen to go with Fogarty, I wouldn't mind that call. Obviously, there are some bigger names potentially that you can play as well in that later game. Fogarty last year also had a pretty decent game against the Warriors, returning from that bicep injury. He scored 65 GDS points, which was a similar score that he got against them earlier in the season as well against the Warriors. So, like I said, Fogarty's a pretty good shout. Just for me, I'm staying clear of that, and then I'll talk about some of the reasons why I'm going a couple of other players. And for me, the other two in terms of Barnett and RTS, I really want to see the role that Barnett plays now. Now that Anfanua Blake has moved on, and then we know Tohu Harris is retired as well. So, we talk about Barnett having 65 odd minutes last season. Does he have that same role? That forward rotation looks pretty confusing. I think they've got about 7 or 8 back rowers in the side. So does that mean Barnett's minutes increase, or does that mean, there's a bit of a rotation there with maybe Dylan Walker playing something out of position potentially. So I just want to keep an eye on him first before I jump in and start playing him. The one thing I love, though, is RTS and his move to the wing. He played 3 games there last season. He averaged 190 run meters, almost 4 tackle breaks, and 1 try per game. The concern I have is that Raiders are pretty good at limiting left side wingers. They only allowed 36.5 GDS points last season, which was actually the 5th lowest in the competition. So for me, I'm just steering clear of this first game.
Yeah, interesting couple of points there, mate. Just a quick shout out there to Sif Kanga, 682. He says up the Wars. So I bet he's going to be playing a few more Warriors players in his side, mate. I don't think you're a true fan if you're not rolling any of them out this game. And we got Reese in the building as well. G'day, Reese. Love your work, gents. Just tuned in. Sorry, have you discussed Weeks? Mate, I'll just quickly run through Weeks. Look, he's not really someone that we'd consider early on in the season, particularly when we've got such a plethora of fullbacks to choose from and fullbacks that are, consider that gun status. When we can play 3 in our squads, we've probably got 6, 7, 8 that we're choosing from, and Weeks wouldn't even be in consideration for that top 6 or 8. So for GameDay Squad, when we can choose the best of the best, we're looking for those high ceiling explosive players. Your KO Weeks would be probably a decent shout and a decent pod in some of the other types of games. We have a bit of a salary cap, or you've got to make some crucial decisions around who can and can't make the side. But we're not going to talk much about Weeks today, mate. We're going to talk more about those guys in gold. And Dill mentioned a few things about the Warriors team to start with. I really think Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is in for a really big season here. We don't have a big sample size of him playing on the wing, but the signs from last year in the 2 games that he played, as well as the trial, were really impressive. And we can play him at centre as well. So someone like Roger, who's just an absolute meter eater, loves to break tackles and can find the try line, and against a Raiders team that, look, let's be honest, they probably won't be amazing this season. They've got a really good group of young blokes, but I think offenses will have a really good opportunity to score some big points against them. Maybe not so much on the narrow field in Vegas. I'm still not sure how much of a role that might play, but look, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck just absolutely eats up tackles, eats up the meters, and he doesn't have to make as many tackles playing on the wing now. He missed 2.2 last season, so that's over 6 points lost just for missing tackles. Obviously, he'll make a few tackles as well, but those running meters certainly going to stack up. He averaged 200 across 2 games playing on the wing, and he scored a try in both of those games as well. He also scored 2 tries in the trial and looked absolutely lightning and impressive. So Roger Tuivasa-Sheck on the kick return, I think teams are going to have a bit of a nightmare if they kick the ball his way. I think he'll play on the left. The trial told us that he lined up on the left and Tuapiki was on the right. Yeah. Obviously, Dallin Watini-Zelezniak will be back eventually. So maybe they're trying to get Roger a full season on that left. He'd be much better on the right, outside, that Metcalf, and then Ali Lauatita combo on the right-hand side. But I still think he'll be good on the left regardless. And I still back him in for plenty of base. And I know you mentioned your concerns around Mitchie Barnett as well. And yeah, I think a lot of us will share the same ones. It's a bit of a new look side, but they have lost a few big boys in obviously Tohu Harris and Adam Fanua-Blake. Yeah, they've got James Fisher-Harris, but look, the rest of those middles are decent, but they're not amazing, and they don't punch out a lot of minutes either. We've obviously got Wade Egan there as well, who gets injured more than anyone else in the competition. So there's a big chance Aaron Clark or probably Dill Walker will have to fill in there at some point as well. They have gone for the 4 forwards, which is pretty interesting given Egan's injury history and some of the forwards haven't really gotten through big minutes in seasons past. So. But with that in mind, I still think Barnett will find plenty of minutes. He did average those 65 minutes. 70 minutes would be amazing. But we know that when he's on and in the middle, he'll just be tackling everything that moves, and he's not afraid to put his hand up for a tough carry. The forward packs in this game are really quite capable of producing a really good game. So I think it will be a bit of a hit out with the middles and plenty of points through base collected in this game. And as long as Mitchie Barnett is on the field for 60 or 70 of those minutes. So I'm pretty happy to lock in a 50 to 60 point score and not have to worry about finding someone else for that position later on next week.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call. And like I said at the start, if you can lock in a player now, put them onto your field, and then you can play around with those bench spots come next week when team lists are announced. The other player that I'm a little bit interested in, and I'm sort of in two minds whether I play him or not, is Zach Hosking. We know he came out last season, played those first 2 games and averaged 79 minutes and had a couple of unreal games. He loaded up in base stats in tackles and meters gained, and then also had those attacking stats as well that you want to see on top of that, and scored some ridiculous scores in those first 2 games. I just want to see what those minutes are like. I feel like same thing might happen as last year. We might miss the bus on him straight away. And so I'm just a little bit nervous about not playing him and what his role might be. We've obviously got Corey Horsburgh moved up into the front row there rather than playing off the bench. So there's an opportunity for Hosking to potentially play that 80-minute role again. So, yeah, I just want to keep a watch on him and see how he goes. The other one here that Skip's just mentioned is Fogarty, and I did touch on Fogarty, but Stu, is Fogarty someone you're thinking about playing over Hines, or are you pretty keen to stick with Hines and Cleary sort of combo?
I'm going to play all 3 actually. So my halves spot will be full by the end of Sunday, and I won't have to worry about plugging any more halves in next weekend as well. I wouldn't be surprised, Skip, if Fogarty outscores Nicho Hynes this weekend. I still think both of them and Nathan Cleary will score quite well this season. But I really like Fogarty as a play. We know that he seemed maybe a little bit unsettled in Canberra, opting for that or asking to test the open market, and Canberra sort of knocking that back. But that was a while ago. So hopefully he knows that, his services are needed in Canberra, and he's a professional. So hopefully he'll knuckle down, and he's got a really big responsibility with a lot of younger blokes around him. And he's that level head, that dominant playmaker. The halves and the outside backs are super quick. It's super fun to watch and super exciting. But it's his kicking game that's going to be the difference here, I think. He'll want to kick early. He'll want to kick to corners. He'll want to turn, CNK and Roger around. And he scores, so many points off that boot. I wouldn't be surprised if a Raider in a number 6 jersey had a 0 next to their name in the kick meter department at some point during this season. We saw Fogarty last season have really good matches, and even when he didn't have any try assists, he was still knocking on that 50-point door. There'd be times where he scored maybe a low 40 in a really sort of down game where he didn't really get amongst the attacking stats, or the Raiders didn't score many tries, so he couldn't kick many goals. But I think he's got a really nice, safe floor with his kicking meters. He makes plenty of tackles for a half, and he generally has his fingerprints over any tries that sort of happen, throwing that final ball or putting someone into space. And then he's obviously got that chance to kick some points afterwards. So, Dill, I know you'll probably talk about a few other halves next weekend or during next Wednesday's show. But for me, it's Nathan Cleary, number 1. And then, Nicho Hynes and Jamal Fogarty head-to-head. I can't really split them. So I'm playing both. But I will let a secret out of the bag. I know some people already know this, but playing Fogarty is a little bit easier for me. Do you know why, Dill?
I think I know why. Yep, I do.
Because the card I play has a bit of a red twinge. If that helps anyone. So, just means he's a a bit of a pod player. I get the 1.5X rather than the 1.4 Diamond version. Being a Raiders fan, it just all makes sense. It just lines up. I like seeing him in that starting side. But in saying that, yeah, I think he's a great player. And we'll obviously talk a bit more about Nicho Hynes shortly.
And the thing I love about Fogarty is his long kicking game and the amount of meters that he gets through his kicking game. I think a couple of games last season, he got over 700 kicking meters. So there's, ridiculous amount of points there for his base stats. On top of that, then his running ability with the ball as well. So, yeah, I think it's a really good play. And like you say, his probably down game is a 45-50. And his up game is anything from 80 plus. And then obviously from your point of view, that 1.5 just makes it that much easier, whether he has a down game or an up game. I love it. Is there anyone else that you wanted to discuss before we moved on to that second game?
No, it's probably just like you mentioned, we'll probably have a watch of Hosking early. I think probably would have forced him into a lineup had he not had some doubt over some injuries leading into this game. We know that he's been battling a bit of a calf. So by all reports, he's, pulled through fine and he's been named in the starting side. But, that issue did linger during the preseason. So if there wasn't any news about that, he'd be much more of a play in my side. But I'm happy to sit back and watch him. If he goes above 60, I certainly wouldn't be surprised. And those that play him will be nicely rewarded. But it's early on in the season. Probably don't need to take that risk on someone who has recently been injured, particularly when we've got plenty of other blokes that can probably go just as well or even better. And we'll obviously rattle a number of them off during next Wednesday's show. We did highlight Joe Tarpanay. He probably is in line for a few more minutes from round one this season, given that they've gone obviously for the hooker on the bench, but also a pretty small bench, including Simi Sasagi, who's played quite a bit on the edge and a little bit through the middle, but him and Mariota don't really get through too many minutes. So Tarpanay, Horsburgh will be awesome, I think, up front, but they'll need big minutes out of both of them. And I think there might be a time where we're considering Big Red in our sides as well. Let's see how long it takes until he comes up as a point of discussion. But I'm good for that, mate. If you're happy to move on to the next game, we can.
Let's do it. So the second game, we have the Panthers up against the Sharks. And obviously this is a massive heavyweight game here. Look, a couple of key matchup stats from last season. The Panthers limited opposition halves to an average of only 36.6 GDS points, which was the lowest in the comp. So I'm a little bit concerned. We are playing Hynes and that might come back to bite us, but that's a pretty big stat there. The Sharks also limited edges to only 38 GDS points, was also the lowest in the comp. So that's a really interesting stat. The Panthers were pretty consistent in allowing points either left or right side of the field, averaging 39 on both sides. So it's something to consider there. And then similar to the Sharks, they were averaging 39 and 37 to right and left side, respectively. The obviously big news out of that game is the team news that dropped yesterday that I don't think anyone was expecting. We obviously heard the whispers around that in terms of the teams, To'o wouldn't make it. He's flown over there, but he's not named in the side. But it was that man, Luke Garner, that found his way into the centre. That was really surprising. And then also my man, Isaiah Papali'i, relegated to the bench, which I was supremely disappointed about because I have drafted him in a few spots in some of our leagues. So I was a bit upset about that. So that's obviously a player that we're not really looking at now, purely because he's coming off the bench. And I think his role might be a little bit different. Obviously, it's a bit interesting there as well that Dane Laurie has found his way onto the bench there, and he could play quite a important utility role. So do you want to kick us off? Who are you starting and why?
Yeah, mate, I've got a quick theory regarding that Isaiah Papali'i and even Blaze Talangi being on the periphery. Obviously, he's dealing with a bit of an injury as well. But there was even some talk about Jack Cole had just as much chance of making the side as well. And we know how good the Panthers system is. And when new faces come to the club, they're not a guarantee walk-up start if they're considered the better player. But the system is so good that blokes look at Garner being named there in the centre, that he's been preferred over, some of the younger players that are probably better centres, let's face it. But he's been in that system. Scotty Sorensen is getting a start instead of Isaiah Papali'i. No disrespect to Scotty Sorensen, great player, but we've seen just how good IPAP can be only, a season or two ago. So they probably have to earn their stripes, and that's obviously coming from the bench for IPAP. I'm sure there'll be a time where we are talking about him as a start in our teams, but we can certainly put a red line through him this match and not be in consideration at all. Let's start with some Penrith players then. We've highlighted probably the three main plays in Edwards, Cleary and Isaiah Yeo. And obviously those three were, pretty permanent fixtures across a lot of our squads last season. And it's no different again this season. Obviously, they were the super impressive across their positions last year. And we know how good the Penrith Panthers team is. And it's these three blokes that are responsible for a lot of that. So let's run through a bit of the Penrith players first, and then we'll move on to the Sharkies. I don't think we have to talk about Cleary for too long, but if you've got a Cleary card, I think it's pretty obvious that you whack him into the team. And he's probably that one player that you look to prioritise a really high rarity card for that classic comp. Yeah. If you've got, a plat or even a diamond, consider using that in the classic comp, because that's a huge boost on opponents, particularly if they only hold and try to spread their team out in that way. The fact that he's been named for Vegas is obviously a really good sign. We know he's been battling that shoulder, and that was the reason why he only played 10 games last season. So the fact that he's on that team list, and really big season, it's a long flight over, it's a long flight back. It could have been really easy just to rest him and make sure he was fully fit for that next round for Penrith, but they've decided to run with him. So obviously that's really promising signs. What's most interesting for me will be how he goes without Jerome Luai. We saw a little bit of what that might look like last season in 3 games. He scored 63, 97 and 76. But if anything, I see it actually being a benefit to him. He'll demand more of the ball. He'll take more responsibility with both the ball in hand and kicking as well. And Jack Cole only averaged 80 kicking meters last season. Jerome Luai a little bit over 100. So there's going to be so many more kicking opportunities for Nathan Cleary. And I think he'll get his hands on the ball far more often on the 5th tackle. We could probably all remember so many times last season throwing our hands up in the air when Jerome Luai got the ball on the 5th and last play, which meant Cleary was sort of out of that passage. And that happened, fairly often because Jerome Luai is a decent footballer in his own right, but you'd expect that ball coming to Nathan Cleary probably 99 times out of 100. So that only means he's more likely to get the attacking stats, and he's going to have his fingerprints all over this game. You probably don't need to add anything more to Nathan Cleary. You can in a minute if you want, but I think Dylan Edwards, you've got a bit to talk about him because you're probably going to be playing him. So I'll just quickly run through why Isaiah Yeo should also be a permanent fixture in our teams. He's obviously a model of consistency, and he has been for a number of years. You know what you're going to get from him, and what you're going to get is 38 tackles a game, 160 running meters, only 0.6 missed tackles, so not many demerits at all. And his link-up play with Cleary and Edwards is, one of the best in the game. So you can definitely profit from plenty of attacking opportunities just by throwing that final pass to one of those two guys. We know that JFH has left, which means there's probably a bit more responsibility on Yo's shoulders as well, and that's only going to be positive for his output. So there's a couple of really good, young, promising forwards at that club, and Isaiah Yeo will take it upon himself to show those boys the ropes, and he'll lead from the front, and he'll be one of those guys that are in your starting team unless he's injured.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I think we've talked about quite a bit, is that you and I are pretty safe when it comes to our building of our squads. And I think probably Isaiah Yeo and Cleary, to an extent, they're the 2 safest plays that I think you can make. And even I would say Edwards is probably a big safe play from me, and I'll talk about him in a moment. The thing I love about Yeo is, like you said, his consistency, both in his base stats and then also in that lack of demerits. We talked about it on our preview, on our preseason top 10 forward show, that he has very few demerits. He has very, very few negative plays. So it means he keeps all of his points from his base and then any other attacking stats that he has as well. Last season against the Sharks, he made 28 tackles, 4 tackle breaks, 2 missed tackles, 1 offload, and it ran for 195 meters. So if he gets anything close to that this time round, which I'm sure he will, based on what you just talked about in terms of his role in the team, I think you're pretty set with Yeo and a big score. I do want to just jump back to Cleary for a minute, because Cal has put up this question here. Is there any case to zag and not play Cleary, or is it just a very silly move? I actually had a thought about that, and obviously me being safe, I decided to stick with Cleary and stay safe. But I think if you want to take that risk, it's an extremely risky move to play a half over Cleary, but I think it could also be a massive reward if Cleary does have a very dud game. So for me, you're taking a massive risk, and it is early on in the season. It's probably not the time to take a risk. It's definitely not the time for me to take a risk. So I am not zagging in that case. I wouldn't say it's a silly move, though, at all.
I got a stat for you here, Cal. If you're wanting to take that move, you're probably hoping that it's that Cleary leaves the field before the 20-minute mark. If he gets beyond the 20-minute mark, his lowest score since 2022 is about that 39 points. He's had a couple of games since 2022 below 20 minutes. He obviously is injured. He doesn't get hooked. But after 16 minutes in 2022, 17 minutes, he scored 1 point against the Eels. And he had a 16-minute game for 17 points against the Dragons, coming back, I think, from an Origin game when he might have done his hamstring. So the only two times he's gone below 20 minutes is when he's gone below 20 points. If he survives past the 20-minute mark, his lowest score for the last 4 or 5 years is 39 points. There are some halves that are gun halves and won't pass 40 points more than one occasion during this season. So for me, it's an absolute ridiculous play leaving him out of your team. Someone cut that up and replay it a few times if he does get injured. But he's on that team for a reason. He's fit. He's ready to go. Panthers will make a statement. No brainer for me. Don't even risk it.
Yep. And Melissa seems to agree with us. Cleary's the only name that confidence say is good, and I'd have him in the team if you're lucky enough to have him in any color card. And I agree, as Stu mentioned, you play his higher rarity if you can, if you do, in that classic squad, and get as many points as possible, particularly when we know pretty much everyone's going to play him if they own his card. If you've got a plat or a gold and you play that in classic, you're just going to have that many more points than the next person there who plays him in silver or in bronze. So that's definitely a really good strategy to go into the first round with. As I talked about, I am playing Dylan Edwards, and I think it's another safe play for me. And I'm pretty happy with that. It's another player that was fairly consistent last season. He averaged around 30 base points. So that's from tackles and meters. Obviously, we know he makes plenty of meters in a game. And I expect him to do something similar. We did talk about in the top 10 backs preview that he also was surprising in terms of the tackle breaks. He had about 6.5 tackle breaks per game, which is quite a good stat there to then build on that base. I expect him to do something similar here. We know what he brings to the table. We know he's a leader in their team, and he might not be the flashiest player. He might not be the flashiest fullback. And for some, they might say he's a little bit boring, but for me, I'm pretty happy to bank his points at the end of that. I guess the key as well is that some people might look at his 24 average and say, yeah, he was really good, which I agree with, but that was slightly inflated, obviously, due to the kicking duties that he had. He kicked 31 goals last season at a strike rate of about 75%. So he's going to relinquish that to Cleary, we assume. There's been no indication otherwise. But you never know with rugby league. You never know. However, I'm still going to go Edwards over someone like, let's say, Walsh or another fullback there, mainly because of Edwards' ability to limit his demerits, limit those negative scoring plays. He averaged less than 1 error per game last season and missed just over 1 tackle per game. So if he replicates that again, he keeps all of his stats, and I'm pretty happy with whatever score he's going to get, and I will bank that away, and I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, it's the safe play, that's for sure. I just, my eyes light up when I'm looking at, a Reece Walsh type play or even a James Tedesco who, have a much lower floor, but that ceiling can be astronomical. If they get a couple of line breaks, run the distance, they tend to get some really good tackle break numbers as well. The meterage is always up there. But yeah, it's that Reece Walsh demerit. So look, I do currently have Reece Walsh in the starting team. You and I are spending a bit of time together over the next couple of days for that footy launch, and then a couple of the games on Sunday. So you might be able to twist my arm and talk me into Dill Edwards, or I might sort of cat it a little bit and go for that safe option. But at the moment, he's not in the champion side. But everything you're telling me is all about safety. And you know, if you say he's going to get a 55 points and you can bank that, he's probably not going to get too far below that or too far above it. It's a pretty safe sort of guarantee, and maybe that's what you need to get the week rolling and feel nice and confident heading into next week.
And maybe you might twist my arm instead, and I might go Reece Walsh by the end of the weekend before we get into that second
complete
game.
180. Complete 180.
You never know. Look, the other player that we talked about and that we are both playing is Nicho Hynes, and it's obviously quite hard to go past Nicho Hynes because we've seen how good he can be. We obviously talked about his down season last season, but I could hear an argument for someone to sit him over someone like Fogarty or potentially DCE or Jerome Hughes or someone like that. But for me, I think the key is that he's coming back, he's fit, he's strong, he's healthy, and we know what he's like when he's fit, strong and healthy. And even at times last season when he wasn't quite healthy, he still performed. If you go back to last season, he only scored 15 points against the Panthers, but he did go off after 30 minutes due to that calf injury that obviously lingered for a long period of time. Last year, the Panthers were really solid in limiting those points to opposition halves as well, as I spoke about. But for me, it's all about that ability for Hynes to just explode at any moment and just take the game on, whether it's his running game, his kicking game, or his ability to set up tries. I think you just can't go past that. And I've seen plenty of times when I've thought it's not a week to play Hynes, and he's absolutely burnt me. And I just really don't want that. He's probably got one of the biggest ceilings in the game. In terms of halves. And look, at the end of the day, he still finished third for all halves in terms of those average points per game last season. So he obviously was able to score some big points in a short amount of time.
Yeah, Sean certainly thinks Nicho Hynes is going to have a big season. He thinks the Panthers and the Sharkies could be the 2025 grand final. I think there might be a touch of bias there, Sean. I'm pretty sure you are a Sharkies fan, but look, they'll certainly be there or thereabouts. I just think a team in purple down in Melbourne will have something to say about that. I've got a feeling that they will be in and around that grand final once again. Yeah, Dill, everything you said about Nicho Hynes, I sort of echo. We say that he had a down season, and while he did, that 58 is still awesome, but it's in comparison to the 70 that he averaged in the year prior. So a lot of us sort of talk about the influence of Braden Trindle and that being a reason why that average was so far down. But he played a lot of games with Braden Trindle the year before and still averaged 70 points. His scores last season without Braden Trindle were obviously better than the scores with Trindle, but I still think a lot of the reason for his down season last year was at the start of the season and sort of dealt with and it sort of lingered throughout a lot of the season as well. And he even mentioned that at times he felt it difficult to sort of push off those first couple of steps getting that power through the legs, and even the kicking game took a bit of a downturn as a result. So look, he's by all reports, fully managed that. He's fit and raring to go. I think that the average is going to be closer to the 70 that we saw in 2023 than it will be the 58 that we saw last season. I'm not worried whatsoever about him having a down season. I think he's going to turn things around. That's the only thing that's changed to me. He seemed a bit more reluctant to sort of run, step, and kick. Those are the three things he does so well. He just needs to go forward, run first. He throws the best pass when he has plenty of time, and when he has he generally takes the right option than not, and he's still got a pretty handy kicking game as well. The Sharkies will score plenty of points. You just got to look at that back line there on the screen, and the addition of Adam Fanua-Blake just means they're going to be more damaging through the middle. So even more tries means more kicks at goals for Nicho as well. So that's why I'm locking in all three halves. We've spoken about Fogarty earlier, and these two are going to put on a show. And who knows? I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of an upset here and a sneaky Nicho Hynes man of the match and get one over Cleary nice and early on in the season.
Yep. I tend to agree. The other thing I really like about Hynes is how magical his hair is. So with that wet hair look does things for me, and I'm happy to watch him all day. He obviously had a couple of massive games last season against my boys, the Warriors, as well, and that was tough to watch. But he was racking up points there. So, I'm keen to get him into my squad and watch him go off against the Panthers on Sunday. A player that I'm not playing and someone that I think you might be is Adam Fanua-Blake. And I promise it's not sour grapes because he's left my team. It's not because he's left the Warriors. I'm just a little bit concerned about his minutes, particularly after his comments the other day that said that forward rotation is going to look a little bit different and he might expect a little bit less workload. What are some of the reasons why you're running with him this weekend?
Yeah, for me, I think the answer is on the screen there. If we look at the Sharks team list, we can see Daniel Atkinson named in the 14, Sifa Talakai, BHM, and Tommy Hazelton. If we look at those numbers, there's not many big minute forwards or big minute middles through there. Obviously, Atkinson will be used predominantly as a utility and probably fill in if there are any injuries. There's every chance he might have 0 minutes next to his name as well, or even spell break Brayley for 10 or 15 minutes as well. But it's the fact that the Sharks have finally named that utility on the bench. Typically, they were having 4 forwards because those boys didn't play lots of minutes through the middle. We know that Cam McInnes can, but even Oregon Kafusi isn't a big minute player either. So I still think Talakai, BHM, and Hazelton are going to get their 35 to 40 minutes. Hazelton only averaged 38 last season. So Adam Fanua-Blake is going to be the man that needs to play the minutes. The moment any forward goes down as well, he's called upon even more. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him find 70 or 80 minutes in some matches, particularly if there's an injury or two or a HIA and he's asked to go the extra distance. I probably wouldn't have had him in my side had they named a 4-forward bench and had another decent middle minute eater on the bench there as well. But that bench is really promising for me. And Tommy Hazelton scored 7 tries last year in just averaging 38 minutes. How much damage is AFB going to do off the back of a Cam McInnes quick play the ball, off the back of Blake Brayley scheming out a dummy half with 60 or so minutes on the field as well? That try scoring tally could certainly be double digits, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets on the board early in round 1. And I don't know where you and I are watching the game, but there's a fair chance that there might be a bit of a wager on him finding that try line and maybe even the first try of the game. For me, he's a bit of an easy start, even over Mitch Barnett for me. If I was to drop any of them for someone else next week, it probably would be Barnett. And I'm even happy to play AFB over him. So, I'm pretty confident, particularly because of that bench. I'm just hoping for no late changes and they drop Atkinson for someone else. I'd have to rethink things then. But the makeup of that bench is looking really promising for AFB. So it's lock and load for me.
Yeah, I think maybe you might have convinced me. So maybe it was sour grapes, and I'm just annoyed that he's left the Warriors. But that is a good point to raise, is that the teams do get announced, or the final team lists do get announced an hour before kickoff. So it's probably really important to keep an eye on that, because if there is a change there, then maybe there's a last minute swap out of AFB if they do bring an extra forward onto that bench. So don't forget, make sure that you're tuned in to any of the socials. We'll try and get the team lists up as soon as we can as well. And we'll do our best to get you all of that news if there are any major changes. All right, is there anyone else you want to talk about there? We've got a few other names highlighted: Blake Brayley, Cam McInnes. I'm just a little bit concerned about Atkinson there, and you talked about his potential to come onto the field and play that sort of utility role. The other thing for me is that the Panthers restricted opposition hookers to only 37 GDS points last year, which was the second lowest, only to the Roosters, who were able to restrict more. So for me, I'm not looking at Brayley. There's obviously one clear hooker that I think most people will play, who's a much more solid option. Obviously, that is also a bit of strategy there in terms of whether you have the cards to be able to play said hooker in Harry Grant or even Damien Cook maybe is another option. So I think Blake Brayley has an opportunity to play 80 minutes. It's just whether he does or not with that utility. And then, Cam McInnes is the other one. He averaged 55 minutes last season at lock. There could be a new rotation. He might, give someone a spell there and play a different position. He might go into the hooker role as well, which we've seen plenty of times. But the one thing I do like about McInnes last season in round 12, he racked up 60 tackles against the Panthers, and he only missed 4 in that game. So he likes to line them up and smash them.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to watch those few blokes, and even some of their outside backs, in Rami and Iro and Ronaldo Mulatalo, they probably will feature in our sides at some point this year. But because they're matched up against the Panthers, because we've probably got a few better options that are probably a little bit more safe, they're certainly on the watch list. And McInnes, if he gets some bigger minutes, he's an absolute weapon. He's just not on the field long enough, and maybe he just gets told just tackle everything that moves, particularly against the Panthers. That's how we're going to win, and he's obviously the man that does that for him. So yeah, look, if you want to throw in a McInnes in your classic or your starter side, I certainly would say that that's a decent risk there to play, because he's certainly in line for bigger minutes as well, just like AFB, particularly if Atkinson is truly only used as sort of injury cover or for Brayley or any of the halves. So yeah, I think it's definitely a wait and look for Brayley and McInnes, but they might be in the conversation sooner than later for a starting spot.
Yep, and just before we move on, Melissa has asked who we think are going to win the first 2 games. I think we're going to have maybe different answers here. I'm obviously tipping the Warriors to beat the Raiders in the first game, and then I think Stu touched on that I think we're both going for the Sharks for the upset in the second game.
You're going for the Sharks as well, are you? Okay.
Yes. I think they might just get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm assuming you're tipping your Raiders to get up one over the Wars.
Of course, absolutely. I don't even think they're favourite. I think the Wars are favourite. So I'm the 2 underdogs in round 1. So yeah, we know how that's going to turn out.
Love it. Alrighty, let's switch across to our players that we are playing in the 2 Vegas games. So this is a look at our champion squad here. Obviously, we're not revealing everything yet, but these are the players that we have talked about and that we are keen to get into our champion squads. Obviously, there's going to be a few changes in terms of late mail and last minute changes to squads as well. So we've got to be flexible with that, as well as obviously the rest of round 1. But you will have to tune in next Wednesday, same time, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, to see the rest of our team. Alrighty, one thing that we really enjoyed, particularly through the cricket season, was our Bro Down Showdown. So if you haven't seen it before, it's where Stu and I go head to head. We pick who we think are going to be the best performers for the round. So we'll select a forward, a half, and a back, and there'll either be a 3-0 win or a 2-1 winner each week. And so to make things more exciting, whoever comments on this video on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, once the live is over, will have a chance to win any players that we pack from a pack opening. So the way that it will work is the loser will open a pack for the winner. So if the winner gets 3-0, they get all 3 players. If the winner gets a 2-1 victory, then one of those players will be going to anyone that commented on the show. So if you think Stu's selection of AFB, Cleary, and C&K will outscore my Yo, Hines, and Edwards, comment Stu's name. If you think I'm going to get the chocolates, then you comment mine, and we'll make sure that if we go up 2-1, one of those cards will be given away to a lucky viewer. Now, usually this is where we sign off, but Stu, we've got one more massive giveaway to finish off the show.
I think that's what a lot of people were hanging around for. Yeah, mate, during our preseason shows, we showed a bit of a podium with a couple of packs sitting on top of them, and we said, all you need to do is comment on our videos, and we'll give you the opportunity to win one of those 3 packs. Now, they're not just normal packs, but they are preloaded, full of all of a lot of the players that we spoke about in those top 10 videos. So we didn't want to give you any packs with, a Brandon Piakura or a, Phoenix Crossland or, Gemet Shibasaki. But we want to give you the best players that you're going to be playing in your squads more often than not. So all you had to do, and a lot of people did do this, they commented their top 3 forwards, they commented their top 3 halves and their top 3 backs. So if you were one of those people that did comment, very shortly, we're about to draw some prize winners. And those people are going to get in touch with me via the GameDay Squad Discord server, or get in touch with us via our Instagram page, so that we can get those cards off to you nice and quickly before Vegas round starts. So I think we're going to do this with a bit of a wheel spin. We'll spin the common pack winner first, then the rare pack, and then the unique pack. And then we'll show you what is inside each of those preloaded packs. If you're in the chat and you're involved in that draw, let us know, and let us know which pack you think you might win. Good luck, everyone. Thanks, obviously, for getting involved in our preseason content. We really appreciate that. All the questions and the support throughout the season will be awesome as well. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and our Instagram, and you can win plenty more packs like this. If some of you are sitting in the audience and didn't have your name in the hat for this draw, stay around, have a look at what you miss out on, and you'll make sure that you don't miss out on any more in the future, because we like to give away a lot to you guys to make sure you're enjoying GDS as much as we are. So, Dill, you got a wheel ready to spin, mate?
Yes, I do. So I'm going to share my screen now.
All righty.
All right. So can we see the wheel there? We've got everyone who commented on our 3 YouTube videos. So we've obviously got your YouTube usernames there. So they might be slightly different than what your Discord or your GameDay Squad name is. All right. Are we ready to spin the wheel?
We are. Mel's in here. She commented.
Unreal. All righty. So we're going to spin for the common pack to begin with, the 9-player common pack. Here we go. Alrighty, and it is our man Longy, the casual athlete, taking out the first common pack. Thanks so much to the casual athlete for commenting there. We'll reveal in a moment what you have won from that common pack.
Alrighty, mate. Well done.
Into the rare pack. So let's spin the wheel again. Here we go. Alrighty, Anger 6727. You have won yourself a rare pack, fully loaded with some of the top 30 players that we spoke about. Alrighty, and
that's Prison Mike's friend Angry from the GDS Discord.
Maybe. We'll have to check that out soon.
Out. Congratulations,
Alrighty, and finally, the unique pack, the 9-player unique, what everyone is wanting. Here we go. Alrighty, it's Fez 3805. Well done, mate. You have won.
Well done, Fez.
A unique pack. There we have it. So, Stu, let's jump through the packs now to show everyone what they have won.
All right. So, remind us who won the common pack.
The common pack was the casual athlete. So, Longy, all right. Casual athlete.
Longy, this is what you'll be receiving, mate. Get in touch with me on Discord or via Instagram, and you're collecting a silver Jerome Hughes, Tommy Turbo, Harry Grant, and Campbell Graham. You'll have a gold Damien Cook, Jaden Campbell, Connor Watson, and Haumole Olakuatu, and that platinum there right in the center. I think a man that you, Dill, and I might be up nice and close with on Thursday evening. James Tedesco, his platinum card. Good on you, mate. We'll make sure we get you those cards in the not too distant future. Congrats and thanks for commenting on the video.
Unreal pack.
Who have we got for the rare pack?
So the rare pack, we had a Anger 6727. So let's have a look at what I think maybe, like you said, Angry has won.
They've got a platinum Teddy as well. Plenty of platinums in this one. They've got a Brian To'o, a Tino, a Ponga, and a Mitchie Barnett, and 4 golds as well. Lomax, Campbell, Tommy Turbo, and Harry Grant. Probably all of those players could feature in a classic or a challenger side during the exact same week. So we said that the packs would be loaded. So hopefully you get some benefit out of those guys, mate.
Mate, just quietly, if you opened a pack and you got that, you would be absolutely fist pumping. That is unreal.
Yeah, that would be a pack of the week, surely.
Alrighty.
And maybe the next one is.
Over to the unique, and it is our mate Fesman, who, like Cal said, he doesn't think he ever loses anything. I feel like that's so true, isn't it?
Let's see if he's got a Dill Brown diamond or a Bradman Best diamond already. If not, well done. They're both yours. You've also got a Brian To'o, a Mitchie Barnett, Fanua Blake, Cherry Evans, Paddy Carrigan, Jerome Luai, and our man James Tedesco there as well. A pack absolutely full of playable cards, or cards that you can probably trade or even sell on the transfer market as well. But we know how much of a good bloke Fez is, and if a few of them are doubles, I'm sure he'll probably help out a few of the others in that Discord server there as well. So that's another awesome opportunity to make sure you're joining that Discord server. The blokes in there, like Fez, are unreal in terms of helping out a lot of the new guys and some of the guys that are chasing certain cards as well. So good on you, Fez. They're yours, mate. Get in touch on the Discord server, and we'll get those cards as soon as we can.
And just before we finish off, a little side note there. I love this from Mel. Head-to-head since 1998, the Warriors and Raiders have played 48 games, and it is 24 apiece. So I feel like maybe Stu and I also need to have a bit of a wager on that one as well come Sunday. Unreal. A little bit of stat there. Alrighty, that is our show. We've got one little piece left for you, and that is one last final reminder about the fantasy footy launch event. It is tomorrow. It is 24 hours to go until you can have an opportunity to meet James Tedesco. We are kicking it all off 6 p.m. from Parramatta Stadium. There are some tickets still available. There are some free tickets still available. Click that link. There's a link in our Instagram. Also, you can head over to the GameDay Squad Facebook page and click the link there. If you are in Sydney or you can get a flight to Sydney, you do not want to miss tomorrow night. It will be huge. And I hear there might be a few pack giveaways as well happening down there in Sydney tomorrow. So keep an eye out. As we said, a couple of your favorite fantasy bros might be down there as well. So you could pick our brain even further for your squad come Sunday.
Yeah,
all right, mate, that is it.
Should be a great night.
That is our show. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and supported us. We loved all the questions, and we hope that you'll continue jumping in every Wednesday night. Our next show is obviously the round 1 live show preview. Teamless Tuesday will drop, and then we will bring you all of the news, all of the start sets, as well as our champion squads. So we look forward to seeing you either tomorrow night in person or next Wednesday, the 5th of March from 7 p.m. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks, Stu. Can't wait until tomorrow night.
Thanks, Dill. Catch you then.